Good evening, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of our conclave. It is wonderful to see all of you return with the same enthusiasm and spirit of inquiry that has shaped our deliberations yesterday. I am delighted to begin session 2, and I look forward to another day along with my team and you all to a meaningful conversation, critical reflection, and engaged learning process. This evening, we have the privilege of welcoming our presiding guest, Dr. Dhanalakshmi A., Assistant Professor of English at PSGR Krishnamal College for Women. Dr. Dhanalakshmi, or Dhana ma'am, as how we call her fondly, is known for her lucid scholarship, her commitment to student-centered pedagogy, and her notable contributions to literary studies and higher education. Anytime you want someone to console into or confide and have a safe space, you might want to go to her. I'm honored today to have her guide today's session with her presence and insights. With great pleasure, I invite you, ma'am, to provide the presiding notes for today's session.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Kavya, for inviting me to preside over this session of this 8-day online national conclave on dialogues in English studies, contemporary pedagogy, research, and practice. Heartiest congratulations to you, Kavya, on your remarkable contributions to academic enrichment and student empowerment. The successful organization and conduct of this lecture series for scholars and faculty have created a valuable platform for intellectual exchange, scholarly engagement, and professional growth, inspiring meaningful dialogue and elevating the standards of learning and research. Kavya, your dedication to this academic excellence and holistic student development is truly commendable.
Thank you
I
so much,
extend
ma'am.
my sincere appreciation and warm congratulations on your noteworthy achievements, and I wish you continued success in all your future endeavors. I also extend my best wishes to today's speaker, to our own Dr. Maitri B, for her participation in this meaningful academic pursuit. Thank you, Ma.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We now move to the central part of this evening. It's my pleasure to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished resource person, Dr. Maitri B., Assistant Professor of Business Communication in the Department of Entrepreneurship and Communication at the Xavier Institute of Management and Entrepreneurship, also known as XIME. Dr. Maitri holds a PhD in English language education from the National Institute of Technology, Trichy, where her research explored the integration of social emotional learning into tertiary level English classrooms. Her work highlights how CEL can serve as an instrument for building inclusivity within educational spaces and by extension within society. She is also qualified through UGC NET in English. Her scholarship and teaching interests lie at the rich intersection of communication, language education, and emerging pedagogies. For Dr. Maitri, communication is not merely a functional skill, but a transformative force shaping how individuals learn, collaborate, and engage within academic and organizational spheres. Her commitment to fostering emotional intelligence, adaptability, and reflective learning is evident in the environments she builds for her students, which are spaces grounded in inclusivity, critical thinking, and sustainability. Her works have been featured in reputable national and international forums, including Scopus Indexed and ABC listed journals. She has also conducted masterclass and contributed to conferences where her insights on pedagogy and communication have been widely appreciated. At the heart of her academic practice lies a deeply held belief that education must not only shape employable graduates, but also thoughtful, empathetic individuals prepared to participate meaningfully in an increasingly diverse and complex world. In today's session, Dr. Maitri will situate emotional intelligence within the context of Industry 4.0 and 5.0, highlighting its continuing relevance in an AI-driven world. She will introduce key ideas from CASEL framework and demonstrate how these can be adapted to language, literature, and ESP classrooms to support inclusivity and multicultural sensitivity. The session will also include brief activity-based illustrations and conclude with an opportunity for participants to decide their own SEL-informed classroom tasks. With great respect for her work and enthusiasm, I welcome Dr. Maitri to lead today's session.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kavya. That was a lovely introduction. So, shall I share my slides?
Yeah, yes, please, ma'am, you can continue.
Sent you a request. Meanwhile, I'm just very delighted to be here today and to address all my insights on social emotional learning, because the more I take it towards the people who are not aware of it, I am really glad that I could do it, because it transforms the classrooms into such a wonderful place. And since my research was also on social emotional learning, I myself have practiced these in my classrooms, and my thesis was completely based on the results of practicing social emotional learning. So it's such a delight for me to share my insights. So I took the topic as riding the Gen AI wave, especially because of how ChatGPT or Perplexity or all of these AI, generative AI forums have come into place in our classrooms, and it has become completely inevitable for us to ignore their presence. And it is not really a great way to say that it can be ignored, or to avoid it in the classroom, because that's the same thing which happened years back when calculators were invented, and people were scared that what will happen to the way our human brain might function. So in the same way, AI has also come to help us enhance the way we work and to make our monotonous tasks in a much efficient way. So in that case, how do we coexist with AI in the classrooms is what we are going to look at. And I'm also going to talk about the importance of emotional intelligence within the humans when such a forum of generative AI is existing. So why emotional intelligence? Let's see as I move on. Yes, so begin with talking about the industrial revolution. I'm just trying to connect it with the evolution of machineries, and then identifying where we stand with our emotional intelligence. So when we talk about industry 1.0, it was just, let's take an example of the hand looms. It was so far people have been manufacturing clothes by means of hand looms, and all of them were handwork. And in case of industry 1.0, some kind of machineries were coming in, and people started working along with the machines. And then when we moved on to industry 2.0, it was more about producing things in a large scale. So if an t-shirt is being produced, how many t-shirts can be produced and how can it be available to a large retail segment was the idea. So assembly lines were brought in. So even then human were required. So it was mostly the physical effort in all these cases. Then came the industry 3.0, where computers were introduced and we had internet. There was this IT boom, and it was more towards us working with the computers. And then came industry 4.0, now where we are in, which is most towards automated systems, and more towards the hi-fi kind of, if that's the right word, the more scientific part of computers. And now we are moving towards Industry 5.0, which is where we are trying to bridge humanity as well as technology. So we have computers, but just like the movie 2.0, where without emotional intelligence, a robo can go wrong anytime. So that is why we are talking about humanity, and for a sustainable future, in the long run, it's always essential that let AI be there, but still a touch of human or humanity, especially when we are from humanities background. We all know how important it is for us to, as teachers. I know there is a crowd of, there are a lot of professors here listening to me, and also there are a lot of students. So I will try to contribute to both the segments. Yeah, so bridging humanity to technology is what we are looking forward to. In that case, I am here to share a few examples from my own experience and from my own readings, so that we can bring in this emotional intelligence through a systematic framework, because we've been talking about it a lot. There is a lot of hype towards bringing in social emotional intelligence in the classrooms. It is very much prevalent in the Western space, but in India, we have been going through Gurukul systems, be it, or a lot of moral education in our schools. But then all of these are just confined to school classrooms, whereas nothing is being practiced, at least not in humanities. But in other cases, and be it engineering, be it medicine, not a lot of importance is given to emotional intelligence, whereas it's very much required. So what we can do as English teachers, because when I was doing my PhD in NIT, I was able to teach a set of students who were actually there for their BTech. So they were just out of schools, and they were all very stressed. So in that case, that is when I went and I read a lot about social emotional learning. Especially, it was the time of COVID when I joined, and it was very much required, because the students were just behind bubbles. Those were just virtual bubbles, and learning happened virtually. But the education system that we've been used to was always in classroom practices, where teachers were able to look at us, we were having eye contact, the kind of comfort that a teacher gives in a class. Everyone, I'm pretty sure everyone will have their own stories. So in that case, emotional intelligence can be practiced in a classroom, and there is no one else who could do a better job than an English teacher, is what I realized. And that is how we come into this SEL in a language classroom. So in case of employment opportunities also, there is this quote that have became popular recently by the CEO of Microsoft, Mr. Satya Nadella. He said that I've always felt, at least leaders, if you just have IQ, intelligence quotient, without emotional intelligence, it's just a waste of IQ that you have. This was a very this was a very strong quote by the CEO of Microsoft, and it meant a lot for all of us. So when a person is intelligent, where especially when our education system is more towards just the knowledge that we could get, and it is the subjects, the syllabi, the constant the race towards getting more marks, scoring the best, being placed in the best institute, it's not enough. When you go to a workplace, a lot like collaborative efforts, teamwork matters a lot. The way you resolve conflict among your colleagues, the way you handle yourself when there is work life, when there is pressure, and the way you should have work life balance, all of these need emotional intelligence. We have a lot of technology to do our work, but this human touch and the ability for individuals to manage themselves is again a very big problem. So in that case, even employers nowadays are seeking for people who are highly emotionally intelligent, so that even the workspaces um, are positive in a way. So in that case, I'll also go back a few years so that we can discuss of. I already mentioned about how I came into this concept of social emotional learning. I'll also tell you what happened during the times of COVID, because it was just the beginning of COVID. Students were going through a lot, especially those people who just came out of school. It was like a very big change, and even today it's a very big change for the students. When they come out of school, they meet different set of people, they are in a very multicultural background. um, Especially in NIT where I studied, it was like a cultural hub. It was very different. Unless it's English, they were not able to talk. There is no point of communicating, because everyone's from different part of the country, and there were people from abroad as well. So English was the only medium of communication, and at times that also became a hindrance for them to communicate, because they did not have much fluency. A lot of people were from rural backgrounds, and they were finding it very difficult. And on top of that, they just finished their board exams, which was definitely very stressful. And then they are here after clearing a competitive exam, which is JEE, which is one of the toughest exams, and we all know about it. So in that case, it's like a cooling period for them. Then they immediately switch, and they are in the hostels with away from their parents. But in case of COVID, that is the usual scenario. But in case of COVID, it was completely different. They did not get to have these experiences. They had to be home. They, most of them, when we were conducting sessions in Microsoft Teams, so most of them, it was just a few people who were interested, who were curious in talking, or who were curious to learn. Whereas the others, it was just like switching off your cameras, not really interested, because they were fed up with the amount of hours they are spending in front of the screen. So it was just stress everywhere, and education equaled stress for them. Even when we are in campus, it's the same thing. But imagine during the times of COVID, it was very difficult for them. So in that case, I thought some kind of activities as a language teacher which I can do, which would also lead to the betterment of their speaking skills, because of the importance English has, and for their opportunities during their placements as well. I needed a scaffold. I had to be a facilitator to make them talk, to make them talk more, to make them be interested in the classroom. So in that case, I had to create some interesting activities which would make them interact in the class, show their faces, switch on their camera, and experience the way and classroom is. So I had to create a safe environment for them, and based on the differences they had, if it, at least if it was in person, they would be able to talk to each other, interact, and understand that despite the differences, we are all one. But that was not the case. People were hesitant to form groups among themselves, because some kind of prejudice or some kind of discriminatory attitude was present. So in that case, I thought inclusivity should also be the case through activities. So I formed different activities, and that became my thesis. I will talk about it in the later stage, but this is the context where social emotional learning came in. And even now, in the age of AI, there is a lot of learning happening with AI based on the different prompts that you've given. It's always easier for us to learn whatever we want. But what is the role of a teacher here? A teacher is the only person who can bring in the human touch, or the peers who are with you are the ones who can bring in the human touch, And that is what is required. That's what we are trying to do with the help of SEL. Now, I will just give you a story. I have these 3 screenshots on my screen. I will tell you the story behind it. Throughout this lecture, I'm just trying to uh, give a lot of examples from my experience. I'm just now teaching in a B school in a metropolitan city. So it's very difficult to as I told you, it's very difficult to ignore the presence of chat gpt here, and it's very difficult to make students not use mobile phones when they are in class. So but there is a rule. Collectively we did have a rule that we will it was a collective decision that we will focus on the lectures and use the phones or laptops, be it any device, only for um learning purposes and only if it's necessary. We should be very cautious that we are not getting distracted. That was the case. But in few classes I do find people being distracted and they start using their phones. So I ask them, I at times I go to that spot where I cannot tolerate it anymore. So in that case, I explain it completely. I explain the reason for my annoyance, which is also a part of SEL, communicating the feelings. So I explicitly say this made me feel very disappointed. So this is not what was expected. Rather than raising your voice or completely sending them out of class. So such practices I will tell you when we are looking at the framework. But in this case, it was one when I had told them that it was very disappointing to see people using their phones, and I asked them to write emails too. In that case, I did receive emails, and it was not all of these did not happen in the same day, but it was, as you can see the dates, you can see it, one was in October and one was in November. So I have also highlighted the words that they've used. I'll just read them for you. Dear ma'am, I sincerely apologize for using my phone during your class today. Yeah, okay. I was happy to read this email because, okay, they are feeling something and they know something that they've done is actually not right. Okay. Then comes, I realized it was disrespectful and distracting. I was very happy that students are using these vocabulary to explain what was actually happening. They understood that it is disrespectful for classroom setting, and they understood that it's distracting for them, and he also regrets his behavior. I was very happy when I saw these words which are very expressive. Then I saw it was not my intention to disregard your instructions or disrupt the learning environment. Okay. I assure you this will not happen and will be more attentive and disciplined. Okay. I was very happy. Then, after a month, I again received an email from another person. Same thing happened. I expressed my disappointment, and then this happened. When you see this, please accept my Abai writes, please accept my sincerest apologies for using my mobile phone during your lecture. I was like, still people use the word mobile phone? Okay. I realized that this behavior was disrespectful to you, both you and the class. Okay, now I am reflecting. I have heard this somewhere. This has happened earlier as well. And now I see. And it was a clear distraction from the material you were teaching. There is no valid excuse for my inattentiveness, and I take full responsibility for my lapse in judgment. I was not able to believe that such emails are being written by my students. And all of these words in bold, mobile phone, disrespectful, full responsibility, and not happen again. Then I understood. I am also an ardent fan of ChatGPT. I keep using it on a daily basis. So I understood there is some connection with the previous email as well. When I looked at it, I was able to understand definitely both of these are written by ChatGPT, just the prompts change, so we can see some kind of changes in the emails generated. Then coming to the third one, where Mithuna writes, I apologize for not using my electronic device more responsibly during the class. I was wondering, Mixie, grinder, which electronic device? Who writes like that? She knows what she was using. Okay, fine. I understand that I should have been more focused and engaged, and I'll make sure to use it only for productive purposes in the future. So she's being very safe here. But this is not how students write, and this is not the kind of bond that a student and a faculty will have. And this is not the kind of apologies that we wrote when we were students. It was like a lot of reflection when we did a mistake, or let's not term it to be a mistake. When we were distracted, we try and explain what actually happened, or we try to give excuses. That is how it was, but this was entirely different. So some kind of mishap has happened, and there is no actual reflection. There's no these are not pure emotions, is what I understood. So why am I talking about all these? I will just show you another kind of apology I got from the same set of students, but in a different setting, while I was practicing SEL throughout in the classroom. SEL is something that you practice with any subject, and it's not like it has explicit instruction, but it's not the entire thing. You integrate with the syllabus, then and now you model behavior. Just like I said, I expressed my emotions, I talked, I go and ask them, likewise, such things. So I have this picture in front of me. I came out of the class, I took a break, I went somewhere, came back, and I see this on my desk. And there is a small chocolate, which is Puck, which was a very nice gesture. My heart just melted. I don't know, all of the teachers might have experienced such things. So you look at the apology written here, same context, but we can see, we are really sorry, ma'am. Will not use phones in the class ever again. Please consider our apologies, with a sweet smiley. And in this case, it's not just about the single person, it's about the entire class. So it's like a collective apology from the class. Whereas I caught only one person, I said, I am disappointed with the regular things happening in your class. So a person took responsibility, and she again came to me. She said, ma'am, she was with a very smiling face. She said, so this is how you build relationships. This will go very this will take you to a very better place in the future also. It's not just about apologizing to the faculty, it's not just about being humble, it's also about how the way you look at life, the way you look at building connections, how networking matters, all of these. This will be reflected in any case of your life, right? So this, I have given you the context so far. Now let's get into the social emotional learning framework. So I hope you've understood where I am going, right? So SEL in classrooms. So how do these changes happen? How do we as teachers bring in these kind of human touch within the classroom? It can be brought in through activities that are done within the classroom. As English teachers, we already do role plays, we do group discussions. So on top of that, we also consciously bring in these concepts from the SEL framework. It also involves creating a very safe space where students are okay to open up. That is the entire goal as a facilitator. We should give them a space for them to open up, communicate, and it should be like a space where even if you do mistakes, you won't be judged. So how do we bring those in? Yes, we have a framework for that. So there is an organization called Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, which is also popularly known as CASEL. So based on CASEL's framework, there are 5 different competencies, we call them. So one is self-management, and then we have self-awareness, we have responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. For teachers who are all present here, this is how we incorporate all the in our through our teaching, how we bring in all these 5 competencies for our students through our syllabus or our modeling behavior. For students, you make sure you try and reflect that you are practicing all of these, right? In case of self management, it is more about managing our own emotions and trying to reach the goals that we've set. So let it be managing our time, being on time, starting with basic everyday activities to our goals for the future. Everything is included in this. In case of AI, let's say if you're using ChatGPT, over reliance is what bothers teachers, right? There is not much of learning happening. It's just copy paste most of the times, and there is some kind of learning loss that's happening. And as teachers, it's very difficult for especially Indian teachers to look into all these aspects because of the population of the class. So when we bring in such conversations, it helps the teachers also, the students also, in a very positive way. So how do you manage the usage of AI? How do you make sure you are not over relying on it? How do you manage yourself by staying curious, by looking at different websites, going through books, learning from other people, and not just stay in an isolated space with AI and just the virtual world? In case of self-awareness, it's again knowing your strengths and weaknesses. If you are a very good communicator, yes, well and good. If you are facing some challenges, how do you improve them? So unless you are very mindful about it, you don't take some moment to understand where you stand, it's very difficult for us to grow. In case of AI usage as well, where as you give the prompts, teachers are supposed to scaffold the students in a way that they give certain prompts where they try and learn where they lag behind, and it's not about just information dump that one can have. So the prompt should be in a way that I've learned all these, but I don't understand these concepts. Maybe tell me, explain it to me like I'm 10, or explain it to me in the way I would like. There is also a concept of, I'm bringing in a lot of concepts because as I talk, I do remember a lot of things. So there is a concept called multiple intelligence, where there is a person called Gardner who proposed 8 type that students have, or any human being will have 8 kind of intelligences. So each one of us are inclined more towards one way of learning. Some will be more towards sports, some will be more towards musical intelligence. They would learn more if something is in the form of songs. Someone would be more inclined towards nature. Being present in the nature might give them a very good environment for them to learn, or they learn through nature, such things. So there are 8 kinds of intelligences. So likewise, you become aware of yourself, understand that there are strengths and challenges that you have, and based on that you give your prompts. So that's being self-aware. In case of responsible decision making, it's more towards ethics. And in case of making decisions, be it life, be it AI, so how do you be ethical? How do you make decisions for the future? And by knowing the consequences or repercussions, you should be very confident enough to make that decision. So especially in the adolescent stage, it is much required, especially in the tertiary level where students are just out of school and they are into their colleges. It's very much required for them to strengthen this aspect. And as we can see in case of AI, you are also supposed to decide between what's best for you and what is not. So you get to decide, and see which of the answers, where is AI going wrong, where do I decide that this is what is required, this is not is what is required, and um, how do I make myself very what to say, how do I make myself stop myself from understanding that I should not copy paste anything because it could become plagiarized content, and I should be ethical, I should have integrity even when no one's watching. So such things come under responsible decision making. Then we have the relationship skills. When we talk about relationship skills, as I already told you, students, when they are just with their devices, when they are just with AI, when they are just with their phones, not a lot of learning happens. Especially in our B school, we have a lot of opportunities in terms of club activities, and so many opportunities we have. But then if they are confined to their devices, relationship skills, building network, as communication faculty, it's also our responsibility to teach them how to network, how to build good relationships, just like the apology email. So how do we form positive relationships, be it and SEL? It's not just confined to the classrooms. As I told you, it's also for the employment, and it is also for the family. So how do we have good relationship with our family also matters. So such things can be brought in. And then we have finally the social awareness part, where we have empathy towards others. So if we are in a classroom and a person is behaving in a certain way, so it is always better not to immediately confront them, but understand why they might be doing it. They might be having a bad day. As teachers also, from our part, we can always try and understand why that kid is being naughty today, or why that kid is very silent. Sometimes they go unnoticed, but it is very essential that teachers look into it. If you just take one moment, I also did a workshop for school teachers. They were teaching primary students. So one teacher, after I gave them the insights about social emotional learning, the next day there was a session. So she came and told me, I never thought of this, that a student might be going through it, and just my one smile from me, or one question from me of how you're doing, what's happening, would be of such help to a student. So she was all emotional when she said this. So it goes a long way for teachers, it goes a long way for students as well. Once I'm done with the lecture, I'll also be happy to hear from a lot of you students or teachers, to share your experiences of how you still remember a teacher who gave this kind of attention, or who gave um, uh, who did have some kind of attention towards you, or how did he or she change your life in a way. And I'm telling you, these are all just put into frameworks now, but we've been practicing, teachers have been practicing it. And I had lovely teachers in my school and college days, and I had teachers who practiced this, just that the name social emotional learning was not given, and now it's a systematic framework. And since it's being popular in the West, we are also practicing it. So it's important that there is a systematic way which makes us reflect if we are going the right path. That's why we are talking about SEL. Otherwise, it's the same thing that we've been doing all along. So I have told you the relationship between how SEL works in the classroom setting, as well as how does it help us in an AI setting as well. Right. Now, I'll also tell you the role of teacher. As I told you, it is our purpose to be the facilitator. So what Vygotsky says is that, um, I am pretty sure he's a proponent of constructivism, social constructivism. So one of his theories talk about this zone of proximal development. As you can see the circles, the first one is where a learner already knows. There is information that he or she already knows, and on top of that there is something called the zone of proximal development, where with certain amount of scaffolding, with certain amount of support, they can reach the unknown information. So we as teachers stand in this way, where ZPD is the place where we as teachers stand in, and we try to bring them towards SEL, and towards more emotionally intelligent students. So that is where we are going through. And it is also essential for us at this point to understand that there are several studies which show that when a person is emotionally intelligent and when SEL is practiced in a classroom, it is also very easier for them to go up in their grades in case of academics. It does reflect in their academics as well. Right. Now, this is the last framework I have. All of us might have questions. I've been talking about a lot of examples, yes, for sure. But always we have a feeling that teachers should have some kind of training after their degree, because only B.Ed is the only way the teachers get trained to use these things in the classroom, whereas university professors, we gain from our experiences or from our professors who are seniors. But in case of training sessions, such things are supposed to be looked at, or such frameworks will help us to practice these in the classroom. Let me quickly brief through the framework, otherwise I think we will be running out of time. Yeah, so this is a framework by CRTWC, we call it. This is taken from a book called Teaching with Social, Emotional and Cultural Lens by Nancy Markowitz and Suzanne Buffard. So they have given us a framework for practicing social emotional learning. Okay, we've been talking about social emotional learning, but how do we implement it in a Indian context? How do we bring it with a cultural lens? So as you can see, this framework, they have, let's consider it as a droplet of water in a vast vessel of water, a droplet. So this bigger vessel is education, and SEL, they, as defined by Markowitz, it's just a tiny drop which causes ripples within on the surface of the water. So as the ripples go by, they also talk about some anchor competencies, which are the goals, and how do we do it, how do we bring in these competencies within the classroom, and what are the goals, and we are looking at from a cultural lens, so that it is very relatable to the students as well as the teachers. Right, we are also talking a lot about decolonization. So in that case, it's always better to look at it from a very cultural context. So as you can see, we have certain goals: a safe and brave and supportive learning environment. So the goal is to create a safe environment where students never feel that I might speak a very, I might mispronounce a word, or I might be ridiculed, I might be bullied for something if I don't do it right. So we as teachers provide a safe environment. So how do we do it? We'll be looking at it when we look at the examples of teacher moves. And then we have equity in teaching and learning. That is, again, I talked about the multiple intelligences, right? So each person will have their own ways of learning, and how far a teacher can go and help them learn in the way that the student wants to. I definitely understand it is a bit challenging, and especially when there are a lot of people, considering the population of the students we have in our classrooms. But still, certain kind of efforts will go a long way. Resilience and sense of optimism, the kind of failures that the students might face, and how do they move on, how do they come up even after facing all these also matters. And then we have the academic success. Based on all these, the end goal will always be academic success, because we are in an educational institute. And then responsibility for the greater good. It's like, how do we contribute to the society, and how do we enhance our own skills, how do we become the better version of ourselves, all of these. In case of context, we look at cultural. Where do we situate ourselves? Where do we situate us as students or teachers? In the cultural context, be it socio-political context, in the kind of community we are living in, and the place where we come from, the family, as individuals, or all these contexts. So in this context, how do we achieve these goals is what we'll have to look at. As people from humanities, we have been reading a lot of literature, and we don't know how we interpret the texts, right? So in case of AI generated text, I'm just trying to relate it with AI, because we have the topic as riding Gen AI wave. So in that case, whichever content is being generated by AI, we as teachers make the students understand where these content come from. So I was talking to a data analytics professor, and I understood that it was a very eye-opening factor for me. I hope most of you already know it. So in case of OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, it the way when it generates the text, it's coming from random websites, Facebook, and all of these. So the kind of sentences that we get is entirely different. Whereas, let's say you go to Grok, Grok, I think is the right spelling, Grok by the Tesla. So when you look at Grok AI, the data set, the words that are scraped off are from X, which is the Twitter, which was earlier named as Twitter, right? So the kind of conversations we have in Twitter is completely different from the kind of conversations we might have in Facebook, right? It's more towards entertainment, and that's more towards more of intellectual people having conversations, discussions, debates. So the kind of output you get come entirely differs. And it also matters who's the owner of the AI, if which country are they coming from. So based on that, there could be a lot of biases, there could be ethical issues coming up. So the students should be aware of how to where they should be able to decide where do we draw a line, how do we use these content, all of these. And as teachers, we model these behavior and we try to bring them in. All right, I'll just quickly go through the remaining parts of the framework, and then we can wind it up. Yeah, so with this with these goals in mind, and in this context, and with a cultural lens within our classroom spaces, we are moving towards these anchor competencies. What are these competencies? These are much related to the SEL competencies that we were talking about: building relationships, fostering self-reflection, fostering a growth mindset that I can and I will, cultivating perseverance. No matter how many times I fail, I can do well. I will have perseverance. Creating a good community of learners, supporting each other. Even if a person is not able to um, come up with good ideas. I even had students who are from regional backgrounds, and they could not even utter a sentence. So in that case, there are as I started creating a safe environment within the classrooms, I was able to see some other students would come and talk for him. They would encourage. They would say, "Okay, you talk in Hindi, and I will translate." So such kind of community behavior within the classrooms. And then promoting collaborative learning. They all get together and then they talk. If there are any kind of discrepancies, they talk it out, such things. And responding constructively across differences, be it a debate, be it a normal classroom setting when there are a lot of people from different background, and it's the way that we move towards acceptance is very essential, right? So such things, those are the anchor competencies as teachers we will have to build it. So how do we bring these in is what we see when we look at the examples of teacher moves. So as you can see, with the each ripple we have lines drawn, and we do have respond constructively across differences. So how do we do it? We practice restorative justice. So it's not like one person just takes a decision, the teacher always takes a decision, or it's always towards one person telling something and the entire class agrees to it. No, everyone practices it. We make amends when there are difficulties, and we, if some microaggression happens, how do we pacify it as a community? Likewise, we have different teacher moves. Promoting collaborative and learning is when how we move towards reflective listening, and how do we have good conversations, all of these. How do we create a community? It's like when teachers say that you can talk, each and everyone's ideas are given importance, so that helps us. In case of cultivating perseverance, how do we do? We set goals, and then we analyze how far we've come, and we embrace productive struggles. If there are struggles, how do we take it in a positive way? How do we give good feedback? All of these. In case of growth mindset, there are strategies, as you can see, where we have a good mindset where we ask them to improve. And in case of self reflection, again, why do these biases arise? Where do we have to stop? And why, which context are we in? All of these things. And building relationships, it's also about how do we engage with the families. It doesn't, as I told you, it doesn't stop within the classroom. It's also taken to the extended level. Likewise, these are the teacher moves. These are some of the techniques where we become the models and then teach the students. And when we give this awareness to the students, they also start practicing such things in the classroom, and it goes a very long extent. I've also written a paper on these with all my activities. You can also read my thesis in Shodhganga, which explains a lot about all these things. If you want, I can share with you my materials as well. So I will just quickly wind up. And this is one of those activities that I did in my class. This is the very first activity I do after giving a very general instruction, after giving a very general instruction of how are we expected to behave in a class, what is required, like how are we going to collaborate, all of these, right? Yeah, so this is one of those activities that I had brought in, which is making digital avatars. So all of them, when they come in for the first time, they'll have to introduce themselves, right? So in that case, instead of, we always have the practice of asking students to talk, introduce yourself in the class. But then I thought giving them kind of interesting activity would help them express themselves in a better way, and that was much required. So in that case, I asked them to create their own bitmoji. As you all of you know, you might be having bitmojis in your Snapchat, in your WhatsApp. Now we also have avatars in Instagram, right? So I just asked them to make their own, and I chose a platform called Pixton for this. So this is very inclusive kind of a platform where you can have a turban, you can have a skirt, you can have whatever you don't have. You can term yourselves as him, he, they. It doesn't matter. You can choose your own way of trying to express yourself. So the students were very much interested, and they created their own avatars. And when I asked them to present it, they were all very interested in introducing themselves. So it was like they reflecting on their own their identity of who they are, and they are feeling proud of it. and they come out and talk about who they are actually, and they want to make a very good impression on the very first day of the class. So such activities, when you look at the table, you will understand what are the outcome of such activities. You build relationship skills. The very first day, you do make friends because you see two people having the same kind of thoughts. You become very aware of who you are, where are you in a classroom, who are all with you in a classroom. You also get to acquire a lot of vocabulary of how people express themselves, all of these. And it also appeals to the visual. Some people do learn with visuals, images, so it appeals to such visual learners. So likewise, there are a lot of activities that I had done, and it was a wonderful experience. And I'll also show you the images created by my students. These were very, very diverse, as you can see. One with burqa on the head, one with a skirt, one in a very funky attire. He also has a skeleton and earphone, and it represents their identity. You can see the inclusive skin color, the way the hair is colored. It was very interesting and unapologetic kind of a introduction space. So I think these will go a long way, and I think I've made justice to why I was invited to this space, and you can always connect with me. And thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Kavya, for this opportunity. Thanks for all of you for listening very patiently.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maitri. It was really interesting to listen into this. So social emotional learning, like you said, was something that our teachers or professors have been practicing for a very long time, intuitively, but not explicitly knowing that there's such thing, and compartmentalizing it into how it can be put into as a framework and how it can be practiced is really very interesting. And you've done a great work in your thesis. It says a lot, and it's loud through how you presented in the session. I'll now open the session to Q&A. I have a question here. I'll be reading out to you so that you can answer. So Stanzen asks and says, I think responsible decision making starts from home, and what kind of a background bringing up you have from the time you are born. Do you think teachers can change such students? For example, copying assignments is so normalized in India, and it's my biggest challenge as a teacher to make students understand that it's unethical. Any suggestions to make the learning quicker and easier?
Right. So in this case, definitely I would say, as teachers, we can, as human beings, we are in no place to change someone. Change happens from within, is what I believe. So you can, as I told you, the zone of proximal development, you be a facilitator who can actually lead to the change. So in that case, in my case, if someone is copying, I would always say, don't you have confidence in yourself? Why can't you try answering this question? You did listen to your lectures, or you did have your own time to learn, so why don't you try? We are, marks are, and always assure them that marks are not everything, and integrity takes you to better places. So such kind of conversations might lead to change immediately. You, when you expect an outcome, it might not happen, but this could be a way to do it.
That's very true. EI is good enough, empathy, understanding, but dealing with Gen Z, who wouldn't take any sort of pestering at times, it is difficult. It lands up into over emotionality, over sentimentality. Peacemaking personality can help. Reaching out to students is great, but we need to demarcate our limits. I believe we need to have a very thin line.
Right. I cannot stop laughing because I myself am a Gen Z and I am indeed guilty of this. Yes, we'll have to demarcate our limits, and I am finding a very tough time with my students because all of them are Gen Zs and me myself becoming. But I think I can understand them better because we are of the same age, and the way we communicate is the ultimate goal where we'll have to go into. So the more you try and relate, the more you are listening rather than commanding. The more you listen, it always helps. They are also kids or humans who are, at the end they are kids is what I understood. So you just have to listen to them, and when you acknowledge that they are going through a lot, it's always a cakewalk, I would say.
I agree with that. I once conducted a session. It was on how, as an educator, you can equip yourself in a communication classroom with materials and other techniques. And I didn't know there was a Gen Z student attending it. A teacher or an educator, they were asking me how to handle Gen Z kids. I think social media has a big part in this. They've, blown Gen Z out of proportion. I don't see why they are segregated as a different group. I think that itself has made them to behave in a certain way. That influence on social media has made them to think that this is how I'll have to be as a Gen Z kid. I have to be rebellious for no cause. I'll have to rise up for nothing. Or it turns out the other way, which is good. It's like they stand up for themselves. They ask when they feel that nothing is right or something is good. They open up about it. So I think overexposure to social media as a student or as a teacher for a millennial or a boomer or for somebody in the Gen Z era, it has in a way processed how they should think about a certain generation in a certain way. So I'm a millennial, but the way I think makes me think that I'm a boomer. So I think all these lines are unwanted, and we should see students as students, and we should treat them for who they are. And
Yes.
a classroom is always supposed to be homogeneous,
Very
sorry,
true.
heterogeneous. Yeah, so
Heterogeneous.
you need not always have a certain age group in the class. Sometimes I've seen people go to courts and then ask for them to be enrolled in a classroom when they are just at the borderline age to not be eligible for enrollment. So
Right.
I don't think that the generalization or a particularization of it is always necessary everywhere. So, what is your view on that?
That's very true because I also have this feeling that our gen okay, when we talk about the generations, our generations, we were asked to talk very less, just obey, be obedient to whatever is happening or take everything. But the coming generation, they do know a lot of things, and they don't want to go the same way. Just think about our mothers and us. When we talk about feminism as well, we are not ready to accept being taken for granted. That's the same thing. It's not just about that. It's about every single thing in the life. They are being more expressive. At times we are not able to take it. It's just the way that we've been brought up. So that is again one thing. And yeah, generational differences, it's just the way human beings are. So there's nothing, even millennials were considered bad. We did have our teachers saying this is the worst class I've ever been to, right? It's the same thing.
Nice. So there's another one. Ma'am, I felt this was a much needed session I have been waiting for. Kindly excuse my question, which might sound cautious, okay? First, where does our uniqueness lie as a teacher in the age of AI? If you answer that, I'll go to the next one.
Okay, our uniqueness, as I told you, if it's AI, it's just information dump. Whatever we ask, we get the question, we get the answers. Unless you prompt that I want the answer to be in a funny way or explain it to me like I'm 10. But if it's a teacher, we know the person who's standing in front of us, we know the context we are in, we know what kind of examples to tell to the students to make them understand, and we can always come up with it with a smile on our face, which takes which makes us the most unique person when we compare ourselves with AI. It's definitely not kiddish, sir. We are, all of us are feeling this existential crisis. That's the right word. And it's definitely a very valid question, I would say. Yeah. And second,
What do you think the criteria will be in the future to become a teacher given the AI context? I think AI has terrorized everybody now.
yes. So in the context of AI, as I again I'll go for Vygotsky's principle, where he says we are facilitators and we should have been facilitators from the beginning of times. So we have the communicative approaches in ELT. All of us must have studied it, right? Task-based language learning, communicative, suggestopedia, all of those. So in that case, we have come to a stage where we are using technology and then making it work for us so that we can enhance our skills. So even in case of AI, we as teachers, we have the teacher burnout with lot on our plate, handling families, handling students, handling admin work. It's very difficult for us. So in case of automatic tasks or generating, in my case, if I prepare for the lectures, if I want to give more examples, I ask AI to give me relevant examples. In case of making quiz, I give it the concepts and it makes a quiz for me. Definitely my intervention is needed to reframe the questions. Likewise, students can also do that. You can actually make a program where it does need a lot of technical knowledge, but that is where we are moving towards, is what I understand. So we make a program, we make a segment where for a particular syllabus, these are the questions that can be asked, and you tend to train students using your you can ask critical questions, and the students can have personal conversations. As I told you, student population is very high, and it's difficult for us to give attention to each and every person. But in this case, AI is there, and no matter how many questions you ask, it never gets tired, right? So that is where we are moving towards, is what I think.
Obviously. So when I started Create, many people had this question. AI is here. There are many firms, there are many edtechs that say that with AI at just rupees 3 per day, they can learn English by just talking to a bot. But you are a person, you have a life outside of this mobile phone. You just have to disconnect it with your fingertip. And when you go outside, you meet a lot of people, you learn lots of things outside, you experiment new things. It's only you who know that. And when you get back to your mobile phone with that app through AI, you should then, like it's a diary, you'll have to write everything to it and tell that this is what I did so far. So now update your knowledge with all this, and then you tell me what I should learn today. This is not going to happen on an everyday basis. So any time for education, I think AI cannot replace a teacher's role.
Very true. It's just an extra tool for you to help you in the learning process.
It's there to say, make easy the teacher's work. You have a list, you want it to be sorted out, use AI. You want everything to be turned into caps, use AI. So make it do all silly works, and then teachers can take the center stage. And
Yes, very true. I completely agree with you. Yes.
we have a comment. Teacher can't be replaced by AI, though AI can provide quick answers. Exactly.
Very true.
This one more thing that I reflected on when you were talking. SEL, I think it's currently synonymous to what most social media parenting influencers are calling as gentle parenting.
Gentle parenting,
Exactly.
yes.
So there was a time when our parents used to beat the hell out of us. Our lives would literally come in front of our eyes, and then it's like the scene from what is this character from Marvel who's a doctor?
Dr. Foster?
No, I'm a big fan of Marvel.
One who wears a red coat.
Yeah. So there are many scenes in that movie where he just transportates outside of his body, and then he learns and comes back. So it's like that when we were used to, get beatings and then disciplined by those. But that was told to not be the norm for teachers when I was, say, in my high school days. But I then saw teachers actually distancing themselves from students and projecting their anger somewhere else. And rules were put in schools that you shouldn't raise your voice above a certain level, or show gestures through your hands, keep quiet, or I'll beat you, or something like that. And now it's like your language has to be very polite, you have to be very convincing of students. It's like student centered completely.
Yes.
It's not
We
like a
become
teacher
far. Yes.
it's like a collaborative classroom now. And the same is how all these new trends on gentle parenting is about. It's the same thing, I think, when you talk about SEL and gentle parenting.
It's definitely the same thing. And I never understood why we were all asked to keep quiet in a classroom, because we are there for learning and we are always supposed to ask questions, always discuss whatever comes to our mind. And that's how the learning goes. So the more it became student centered, the more intelligent students also became, and the more learning happened, to be honest.
It's
Yes.
true. I think we have no more questions, and I'm sure that everyone in the participants section are very happy with whatever they've listened from you, and it's such a nice thing to add more into what they've already known and show a direction to where this can lead to. Thank you so much, Dr. Maitri, for quickly agreeing to be a part of this conclave and being very cooperative and very, very patient in answering to all the questions of our participants. And
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Kavya. I was actually very humbled and I was so happy to see Dana ma'am also. It is such a big opportunity for me to present my ideas in front of my teachers and my senior. You are here, whom I admired a lot during my college days. We used to observe you all doing really great stuff, and I still see you. And my best wishes for Create the Ed Hub. So, best wishes. This is going to be a very good relationship that we'll be having for a long time. And my best wishes. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
thank you so much, Maitri. This has been very nice to hear all these good words. I'll be connecting with you in a short while. You
Sure.
might wish to leave, or you can stay in the session. It's just going to be a bit of instructions for the participants.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dear participants, I will now share the link with you for you to share your feedbacks. This is again not your attendance certificate or to validate if you have participated in the session or not. It's just for us to get to know more about how you felt about the session, the timings, or any other general comments. So if you have anything to add to that, please be free to do that. And we will be meeting you tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. and we'll have with us Dr. Sarika, who will share with all of us how you can use web series, and particularly in particular the Good Doctor series, to teach English to engineering students or in general for any students. She'll be applying that case with biomedical engineering students and be sharing with us how it actually helped learners enhance their communication and language and even grammar skills. So I'm very eagerly looking forward to tomorrow's session, and I hope so you will be. I'll be staying on the session for a few more minutes. So if you have any questions to ask, you can post them here in the chat box. This link will be open for a very long time. There is no rush in filling it up. I will also be sharing this link with you on WhatsApp and in email, so you will not be missing it.